And good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Whenever you see this is exactly when you're supposed to see it. So welcome in, pull up a chair, bring your spirit guides. But welcome in. I'm in comfy clothes today because it's my day off. So don't mind the clothes here. But hello. Welcome in. I'm going to push you guys back just a little bit. There we go. Much better. But anyway, hello. Hopefully you guys are doing well today. So, last week when that new energy hit, there was a reading that I did. It was with the first day of spring. We were actually in the new moon in Pisces energy, which was a breath of fresh air. Loved it. So I loved that little dash of new moon energy in there. But it is Monday, so we're going to start the process all over again. So let's see where we're going. I'm very excited with this energy. You know, it does feel like a breath of fresh air. I do know that some people are struggling with it because it is removing old cycles, you know, old versions of ourselves, right? I feel like we are all kind of waking up from the winter energy, but it is the start of spring. It is the start of new energy. So we're going to kind of roll with that. We're going to roll with that today. Oh my goodness. What a week, right? What a week last week was. Underneath, we've got soulmates. I have not seen this card in quite some time. I have not seen this card in quite some time. So, welcome back. Past energy, we've got higher power. Absolutely. The higher powers definitely have been having their hands in the energy right now. Haha. Truth be told. Are we dealing with relationships today? Are we dealing with a counterpart? Happy, happy underneath. Are we dealing with counterparts? The underlying takeaway from this is, the one that's yelling at me right now is the truth be told. The truth be told. That is the loudest card here. There is a truth that needs to be spoken. Four, 5, and 5. I mean, there's 4s here. We got 4, 41, and 14. That's interesting. So before I get to the underneath, first off, 4, 4, and 4. Those are that's actually my lucky number. 444. It makes me think of 4-leaf clovers. But the 4s have always been a good number for me, which, you know, it may not resonate for all of you with that. But the other thing that I notice here is 41 and 14, right? 41 and 14. They're kind of mirroring each other. So you could be mirroring your energy back to somebody around you. But back to the truth. The truth is always important, especially when it comes to relationships. Are you being honest with somebody? Are they being honest with you? Is there a window of opportunity for you to be able to speak your truth? Because in this, truth be told, it's kind of like a window, right? There is a window here. So there could very well be a window of opportunity for truth to come in based on relationships. Now, this could be a current relationship. This could be, you know, somebody that you're dealing with who isn't quite a romantic partner, but you want them to be. We'll take a look. We'll absolutely take a look. Underneath, we have the Explorer. This card has been very present. Very present. What you see in your heart, you know, your head and your heart, you know, logic versus emotion. I don't know why I'm pulling this from underneath. We've got ancestors here too. Okay. Past energy, we have the Observer. That's Aquarian energy. And where we're going is sacred sexuality. Apparently today we're going to talk about relationships. And I am actually going to pull this happy, happy from underneath. Just so it matches the flow of this energy. And it's interesting that I pull it this way, because how it shows up now is past, future, guiding, and grounding. Past, future, guiding, and grounding. So if we're looking at it that way, what's guiding you is soulmates. It's an exploration of, what you're looking for in a counterpart. What's grounding you is your joy, happy, and your ancestors. You could be considering ancestral cycles, trying to break ancestral cycles. I know in my personal relationship, that man has definitely broken some cycles. And it's not like, I did that intentionally, because that wasn't the intention. My focus was me being happy, right? But the more that we move through this relationship, the more those old toxic cycles, from my mother, from my father, from, the things that I viewed growing up, those cycles were broken and are being broken. Past is higher power and observer, which means I feel like it was kind of a back-seated thing for you in the past, but now you've transitioned into a present, actively searching, actively sifting and sorting. And the future energy with truth be told and sacred sexuality, you could very well being honest not only with yourself, but with, another person. I'm going to use these today. I didn't take these out, but I'm going to use these today. This is the Golden Foil Tarot. Love these. Love these. Very beautiful box. Anyway. But this energy, like I said, has an underlying of truth here. Whether it's for you, for the other person, for both of you. Being honest with yourself, with your soul. This is some high vibrational energy here. I'm going to shuffle these really good. I'm going to shuffle these really good. And it definitely has not only the truth here, but it goes beyond honesty. It's really reflecting back to you. It's kind of looking in the mirror or talking to yourself and really asking yourself what it is that you want, what it is that's going to make you happy, that's going to, break these traumatic cycles, that we have. I'm hearing completion, something that's going to feel whole, something that's going to make you feel completed. Underneath, we've got the Emperor, the Three of Wands, the Queen of Cups, and the Ten of Pentacles. I do see this Strength card here because it does take a lot of strength to be able to, look at this energy and honestly, pick through these things. Pick through, the toxic traits you have. Or, the toxic traits you don't want to see in your relationship. It does take strength to do that. Back in high school, this is just for reference here, just to give you some sort of an idea of where we're shooting here. So, back in high school, what I was looking for is not what I was looking for now. And that comes from a lot of sifting and sorting of the soul searching. I always tell this on this channel. If you could go back and shake the shit out of a younger version of you, that means you've grown, right? If you look back and you're like, man, I'd fight that MF so hard, that means you've grown, right? And that's what I feel like this energy is. Really think back. Really think back to high school, or to the things you used to value in relationships. Are those values still the same? Because if they are, I feel like that's what's being called into question. And I'm not saying you don't know yourself, and I'm not saying that you don't know what you're looking for in a relationship, but maybe some of that needs a little fine-tuned. right? I'm not saying throw the entire thing out, because that's not what I did. But there were some instances. Okay, we're going to get some personal information out of Ollie today. I know you guys love that, right? So, back in high school, I looked for somebody who could physically, you know, it's high school, right? You know, everybody wants that individual who comes in and handles everything, and you know, is it's kind of like a fairy tale, right? But it was a toxic version of a fairy tale. To be completely candor with you guys, I was looking for somebody because I was being bullied. I was looking for somebody who could handle the bullies for me. Somebody who stood beside me, and when there was a problem, it was something that I didn't handle. They handled that. Now, obviously that's not the case today. I've grown, I've changed, I evolved, and I learned that I could definitely handle my own problems. Absolutely. And so as I transitioned from somebody who, you know, was Prince Charming and could fight the dragon, and, you know, who could handle all of these demons that I had, now that I'm older, I wanted somebody who could stand beside me while I fought the demons, while I could fight the dragon. Somebody who supported me on a different level. Cosmo, what are you doing? I'm trying to talk to our friends. Yeah, hi. But I was looking. I was now past tense. That shifted and changed, and so now I was looking for somebody who would support me emotionally. You know, when those demons got the best of me, somebody who reminded me, hey, you're capable. You know, this is not the end of the world. You know, you can get back out there and tackle these things. Right? And that's what I found. Spoilers. That's what I found. I found somebody who took care of a different aspect of me while I stepped into my power and was able to handle a plethora of different things. So that's what I mean by fine-tuning. I'm not saying throw out the whole shebang, because I was still looking for Prince Charming. And I found Prince Charming, just not the Prince Charming that 14, 15, 16-year-old me would have been like, that's Prince Charming. If 15-year-old me, saw my relationship today, there'd be some confusion, and there'd be some awe there, right? Because it's definitely not what I would have looked for way back when. So, again, there's some fine-tuning happening here. There is some fine-tuning happening here. Let me pull the rest of this. Right side up, first card out of the gate, we got the Ace of Cups. So we're definitely talking about love and romance today. Six of Pentacles, Hermit is the obstacle. Three of Cups, guiding is judgment. Absolutely new choices here. Past energy, we've got the Six of Cups. That's past energy, literally. Future energy, we've got the Ace of Pentacles. Your motion is the Knight of Swords, the Knight of Pentacles. There's that lesson. There's that truth from that lesson. Four of Wands, and the outcome is the Ace of Wands. The only ace that we are missing right now is the Ace of Swords. Clarity. But the clarity is what's being found, right? But this is some serious redefining relationship energy right here. Again, it's not throwing out the entirety of what it is that you're looking for, right? But it's definitely fine-tuning that process. It's making new choices. Judgment. I do feel like your spirit guides are here, you know, helping you through this. I do feel like Archangel Michael is definitely stepping in. Cosmopolitan. Why don't you go lay down? Why don't you go lay down? Go play with your toys. Yes, I know. You want Dad to go cuddle. I need just a few more minutes. You know, the longer you distract me, the longer this is going to be, right? Yeah. The longer you distract me, the longer this is going to be. Hey, go play with your toys. They're over there. He doesn't care. So, to look at this in completion, you know, we have the Emperor, the Three of Wands, the Queen of Cups, and the Ten of Pentacles with the Strength card. You know, I definitely feel like you are closing old cycles. You know, you're turning your back on, you know, the old dynamic, right? That tells me with the Three of Wands and the Six of Cups, you're turning your back on it. But at the same time, you're waiting for something to come in. Which, you know, in relationships, aren't we all? We're all waiting for, you know, that one individual, that one energy that's going to feel like it completes you. With the Emperor and the Queen of Cups, that definitely tells me that action is being taken, but it's definitely coming from an emotional side with the Queen of Cups. And it's definitely based on a family aspect. Ten of Pentacles. How can you find somebody who's going to make you feel like this? Ten of Pentacles. So now that we move into you, Ace of Cups, Six of Pentacles, the Hermit. You know, love is trying... I'm not going to say that. I don't want to say that. When it comes to love, there needs to be an abundance of it, right? Because love is not a glass half empty, glass half full. Love is kind of an overfilling cup, okay? Which tells me that there's a new chapter here in relationships happening for you, but it definitely needs to have some balance to it with the lessons that you've learned, right? There needs to be a light shined on the past, Six of Cups, that, you know, you really reflect, you really learn. Like I was explaining to you guys about my past, what I was looking for, how many years ago is that? Let's shoot for 13 years ago, right? What I was looking for 13 years ago is not what I'm looking for now. And it's not what I found, right? Now, the underlying current of, you know, somebody who is emotionally balanced, somebody, you know, who, you know, helps me take care of certain things still stood, right? But what they were helping me take care of instead of fighting my demons, they helped remind me, you know, that I am capable of fighting these demons. So the taking care of is still there, but it transitioned into something else. And that's kind of what this feels like this is. It's a fine-tuning of these processes. Now, judgment is making, you know, different choices. You know, it's coming to a crossroads. It's really like, you know, I could walk the old path, or I could walk the new path because I'm a new person, right? And so then where we're going is the Ace of Pentacles. I feel like it goes from an emotional thing to a definite, tangible thing. So, if you're dealing with somebody, you know, maybe somebody's hounding you because they want to take you on a date, and you're like, well, you're not really who I would consider myself dating. Is that the old you talking, or is that the new you talking? Right? Because there are some relationships that I know of that they're like, you know, I never would have considered this until they give it a shot. And then it's like, oh my God. So, is it the old you or the new you talking when it comes to this relationship? I will look at this lesson here. This Knight of Swords, Knight of Pentacles. But here we have the Four of Wands. So I feel like only after the clarity of this lesson comes in does passion come in. Ace of Wands. So I do want to take a look at a few things here. Tell me about the past. Because I'm nosy. I'm nosy. This is not anything new. Page of Wands. Knight of Cups. Oh, hello. Three of Pentacles. And the Two of Cups. With the Eight of Cups underneath. I will walk away with that too. I feel like in the past, some of you were looking for somebody to complete you on a way that was not healthy. wasn't healthy. Kind of like how mine wasn't healthy, right? Back then, I was also looking for individuals who could make me feel whole, right? Everyone wants that happily ever after feeling, right? Right. At least I know I did. I was a Disney kid, so I grew up with happily ever afters. But it was toxic, right? Not saying that Disney's toxic. Don't come after me in the comments, and for the love of God, Disney, don't come after me. But what I mean is that you don't need a relationship to feel complete. That was a big lesson, a big takeaway lesson. And that's what I feel like some of you were shooting for, or are still shooting for. You don't need a lesson to feel complete. You are complete as you are. I'm going to say that again. You do not need a relationship to feel complete. You are complete as you are. When a relationship comes in, it is supposed to enhance that completion. It's not supposed to be, two halves of a whole idiot. I mean, yes, it is, but what I mean is that you are already supposed to feel complete. And when another person comes in, they are supposed to love you for that completion. Your flaws, your demons, the happy moments, the things that make you happy, your insecurities, the things that they find beautiful that you may not see. When it comes to my current relationship, I can roll out of bed. I mean, I'm in comfy clothes today. I'm not going to lie to you. I have pajama bottoms on. Pajama bottoms. I have a hoodie. And I have a tank top on. This is what I'm wearing today. Right? And when Jared comes home from work, because he works on Mondays, I don't, haha. When he comes home, he's going to tell me that I look beautiful. He's going to give me a kiss, and then he's going to ask me what we're doing for lunch. He's not going to look at me and be like, wow, you look like Raggedy Ann today. He's going to look at me and go, you look beautiful as always. And that is what, relationships should be about. They're going to love you for, your flaws, whether you look like a homeless nobody or somebody who looks like 5 stars as you go out to eat and you're all dressed up in this glam. And I feel like that's some of the lessons that some of you need to take away from this. Because I know me, when I was in high school, everyone only saw what I wanted them to see. They only saw the perfection. They only saw, and that was a whole flaw all in itself, but I digress. They only saw what I wanted them to see. Relationships included. And that was not okay. So some of you also need to understand that it can't be a show, it can't be an act, it can't be, they see the perfect version of you all day, every day. Because that's not realistic either. Judgment. The world. Endings and new beginnings. 10 of Cups. Hey, hey. The Chariot. Absolutely. The 6 of Wands. What's underneath? Aha! Well, hello. There's the Libra energy. What that tells me is that whoever this message is for, when you start to fine-tune this process, when you really start to sit down and think about these things, be honest with yourself, when you really start to think about these things, is when you start to think about these things and make new choices, is when the endings and new beginnings can begin. Again, we have 3 out of the 4 aces here. Ace of Cups, Ace of Pentacles, Ace of Wands. I did not notice that either. It's all straight across. It's present energy, future energy, outcome. That's a lot of big energy. That's a lot of new beginnings here. It's a straight shot. But again, there's a lesson, there's a takeaway. There's that first domino that needs to be pushed before the rest of these dominoes can fall into place, before they can also move in motion. So, 10 of Cups Chariot, Six of Wands, Libra. Libra energy of justice. I feel like you are transitioning from a toxic version to a wholesome version of what relationships are supposed to look like. That is beautiful. This energy right here, the world, the Ten of Cups, the Six of Wands, that is beautiful. Whether before it was the Page of Wands, the Knight of Cups, the Three of Pentacles, the Two of Cups, like, yeah, it was okay, but it wasn't quite there, right? So tell me about this lesson. This Hermit, this Knight of Swords, Knight of Pentacles. What is this lesson that we're learning? Ten of Wands. Ten of Wands. Page of Swords. Ah! Ooh, so close. Queen of Wands. Give me one more. The Four of Pentacles. And what's underneath? We got the Six of Swords, and I also see the Empress here. So now we have Divine Feminine, Divine Masculine. Now we're actually getting into where things start to meet when it comes to relationships. But the lesson, the takeaway here, is to move from the past. Is to move beyond the half-assed energy, the toxic energy, into something more wholesome. You know, the caveat here is not every relationship is going to be fireworks and explosions. Sometimes it's a quiet, subtle shift. And sometimes you get both. But some of you could have been looking for fireworks and you needed calm. Some of you were looking for calm and found fireworks. Some of you weren't looking for anything and found both. Right? That's kind of how it happened with me. I wasn't really looking for anything, and then Jared came into my life and everything changed. And I'm not saying that, you know, everything changed with me, you know, on what I was looking for in relationships. But what I mean by that is there were aspects of my life that I didn't know required my attention. Until he came in and started shining that light, and he's like, hey, like, what's this? What's this? What's this? It wasn't judgment. It was, what's this about? What's this about? What's this about? And it really caused me to look at my self-worth, my self-esteem, my value, you know, my family relations, what I wanted my family to look like as we move forward. Like, there were all of these things that I didn't consider until after, you know, I had somebody come in. What are you chewing on? You better knock that off. You better knock that off, Mr. Man. And I'm not saying that, you know, Jared doesn't love me for me, because he does. But, you know, when two people get together, they talk about, you know, what's our next step? What is our family going to look like? Do you want kids? Do you not want kids? You know, what are lessons that you want them to learn that you know, learned as a kid? What are things that you don't want them to go through? You know, the generational trauma. There are some things that my kids will not go through, because I don't want them to experience a childhood like I had, right? So this is going to be a change. This is going to be a process that after you fine-tune, you know, what it is that you're looking for, this person is going to come in and also help you fine-tune it again. This is some really big energy when it comes to relationships. But you need to move away from, you know, this is for someone, a money aspect. I'm not saying that on YouTube. Some of you need to move away from the thoughts of somebody financially taking care of you. I said that as best I could. Some of you need to move away from a physical, tangible type of love and move into a much more emotional type of love. Emotional over physicality. I said that as best I could too. To put it bluntly. All right, let's have some fun today. We're almost at half an hour. To put it bluntly, you need to move away from sugar daddies, and friends with benefits are never going to work. There you go. I said it. Happy now? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Anything else? I've had enough of these cards today. King of Cups. I've had enough of these cards today. Devil Energy. The Nine of Pentacles. The Four of Swords. And the Five of Wands. Along with this Three of Swords and the Sun. Alright, I see what's happening. I see what's happening. Where are you, by the way? No freaking way. The next card on top was the Ace of Swords. I'm going to pull this one, but there's a caveat to it. Okay? Some of you are also afraid of relationships. And I'm going to be as gentle as I can with this before we pull zodiac signs and I send you on your way. Some of you are afraid of relationships because you are afraid of having that emotional tie to someone. You're afraid of it. You are somebody, again, this is a caveat, you could be somebody who, and I've been there, done that, has their world in a particular type of order, right? And if somebody gets too close, if somebody starts to peek behind the perfection, you panic. You panic. Because having somebody get so close to you that they know that you snore, that they know what you look like without makeup, that they know what you look like on a messy day, you know, they're going to see all of these flaws, all of these imperfections, and sometimes real relationships can be scary, right? Because you don't want to be emotionally invested in someone and have it fall apart, have it hurt. I mean, that's the next card. What was the next card underneath? We got the Five of Wands, the Three of Swords, and the Sun. Love has its risks, right? And for those of you who know, you know, I had a traumatic event happen with somebody that I was dating back in 2014. No, back in 2017, I'm sorry. And it definitely put me off of relationships. I was like, no. Because the gentleman ended up passing away. And I was like, that's it. I'm done. I'm done. And I put several thousand walls up. And because I never wanted to experience that pain again. And that's what I feel like is kind of happening. You know, you think relationships are a good idea, but at the same time, you don't want somebody to get too close because it can hurt. It can hurt. Love hurts. Love bites. Love sucks. It does. But at the same time, love is also an incredible experience to have with another person. And that's where the risk comes in. That's where, you know, the greatest joy and the greatest fear come in. You know, you're right. What if something goes wrong? What if you open yourself to this person who you think is amazing, is going to be your other half, and then something happens and they're gone? That is a risk. Absolutely. What if you guys get married and then get divorced? That is also a risk. Love is not without risk. Anybody who tells you otherwise is lying to you. Especially for people like us. You know, I'll put myself in that boat. You know, there is risk. You know, I was afraid. Am I a little less afraid now? Absolutely. It's taken a year and a half, but yes, I'm a little less afraid. But that comes from being honest with myself, with my significant other. And I feel like we've come full circle back to honesty. Right? And that's where fine-tuning this process comes into play. Wow. So some of you are afraid of relationships. That's okay. But at the same time, some of you who are afraid of relationships are looking for relationships, are looking for connections. But it's like two vibrations, okay? Being afraid of relationships and relationships. You know, you have to find you have to either meet it up here or meet it halfway. Because you are pulling in relationships. You are sitting on that vibration because that's a relationship vibration, right? So you are pulling those in, but it may be on a lower vibrational scale than what you are shooting for. And that's why this work is important. This was some really, really interesting energy today. This was some really, really big energy. And if you got to the end of this video, kudos to you. Oh my God. But these are some serious things that need to be thought of when it comes to relationships. Is it a happily ever after? It can be, yes. But it's not without the work. Perfect relationships, what look like perfect relationships, are because they sat down and they did the work personally and together. The first card I pulled was the Emperor underneath, and the last card I pulled from underneath is the Empress. So through this work, there is a match. But only after we go through this work. Only after we embrace love. We allow it to become physical, tangible. We are inspired by it. And we understand the truth. We understand the honesty. Zodiac signs that I see. I knew we had a set here. At least I thought we had a royal set here. Was it the King and Queen of Cups? King Cups, Queen of Cups. Yep, so we got water signs, Cancer, Pisces, Scorpio. Aries, Leo, fixed signs, Leo, Taurus, Scorpio, Aquarius. Cancer, Libra, Scorpio, Virgo. Capricorn, Leo. Libra, Taurus. I think that's everyone. I'm going to swing back through just to be sure. We've got Aries, Leo, fixed signs, Leo, Taurus, Scorpio, Aquarius, Cancer, Libra, Scorpio, Virgo, Leo, Capricorn, Libra, Taurus. And that is what I see. So, thank you guys very much for joining me. I know some of you are probably like, man, fuck that guy. And that's okay. My job is to bring these things to your attention. My job is not to do it for you. My job is to be like, hey, somebody out there needed this. Somebody out there needed to hear this today. That is my job. Now, what you do with that information, that's entirely up to you. But this is what I have for you today. Relationships were on the mind. Relationships were in the cards. So hopefully this helped you. Hopefully this, if you needed this, gave you the sense of direction that you were looking for. But as always, you know, this has been a blast. So thank you, spirit guides. Thank my spirit guides. And thank you for being here. As always, this was wonderful. But until next time, you guys take care, and I will see you all again later. Bye for now.